Welcome everyone to Unit 12, Filtering Data in Excel. So a filter is a way that we can sort through a large data set and quickly compile it, categorize it, and understand a large set of data. Here we have an example here. We have a database of different types of item in stocks. We have item number, the name of the item, the quantity, the selling price, the purchase price, and the value, as well as the date updated. So there's a lot of information here, and we can sort and filter this in a number of different ways. So the first thing that we need to figure out is how do we actually apply a filter to this data. Before we do that, we want to make sure our format's in the right order. The correct format is to have a single heading, and then the data is underneath it. If you have multiple headings and so forth, try and clean it up to get it in this format. Otherwise, it may not work. So what we're going to do is we're going to select somewhere in our header, and we're going to press in the data ribbon, we're going to press filter. You'll now notice that under each of the headings, there is a little downward arrow. If we select this, it gives us a number of options that we can actually filter the data by. Now, even though we haven't selected the whole table, Excel knows to apply to the entire table. So we don't need to select the whole table like so. We can just select the header, and as long as there's no spaces in between your data, i.e. it doesn't stop and start like that, Excel will be able to figure this out. So going to data filter isn't the only other way to apply filters. What else we can do is we can go to the Home tab, and under this little editing header, sort and filter, we can apply our headings this way by going filter. And the keyboard shortcut for applying the filter is Control-Shift-L. So I've just clicked anywhere in the table and pressed Control-Shift-L. Now with any of these approaches, if you repeat the action, i.e. if I press Control-Shift-L, or if I press the filter button, you can switch between having a filter on or having a filter off. The first thing to note about filters is that there are two options. There are filters and there are sorts. If we click one of these down arrows, you'll see that the options are subdivided by this little grey line. And what that does is it effectively splits out sorts from filters. The difference between the two is sort does not hide any data. It simply reorganizes the order that it's in. Whereas filter, it does. It removes everything, or it doesn't remove it, it just hides it, everything that doesn't satisfy your criteria. So let's focus on sorts first. The most common sort is alphabetical, but it's not just alphabetical. If you look at the sort button over here, you'll see that it says, one of these, it says sort A to Z, lowest to highest. So what that means is it applies to text, numbers, and dates. So let's see what that looks like in practice. So if we select this data and select sort Z to A, you'll notice that it's going from the highest letter to the lowest letter. Now we can do the same approach with values over here. So we can do smallest to largest value and it will still work. We can also do it with dates as well. If we select this, we can go oldest to newest and newest to oldest. And you'll note that the icon doesn't change throughout this whole process, but the text does. The icon is the same as this icon over here, A to Z. So it may seem like alphabetical, but really what it's doing is sorting it from the lowest value to highest value, no matter what the text or whatever the field is formatted as. So the next thing is doing a little bit more sophisticated sorts. So what this is doing is just saying, okay, apply a sort in the field that we have highlighted. So this is a single sort in a single column. We can be a little bit more sophisticated than that by pressing this sort button up here. So what this will tell you is the current sort that you have applied. So because there's one row here, it means there is one level of sort being applied. And it's the total value of stock, that's the header, and it's sorting it on cell values, and it's sorting it largest to smallest. So what we can actually do is apply two different levels of filters or sorts. So this can be in any order. So let's focus on sorting it by alphabetical order. So first of all, we'll sort the item name from A to Z. Okay? But what I want to do is, this is my priority, is having this in alphabetical order. But what I want to do after that is, as long as it's in alphabetical order, i.e. it starts with an A and then a B, I want to know that the value of the stock is then sorted in order, because right now the 17,000 is the highest number, but it's not at the top of the A's. So what we can do is we can add in a second level by clicking this button here, and you'll notice that all of these are blank because there's no defaults. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the header that we want, which is the total value of stock, and we're going to apply this largest to smallest. Okay, so our filter is now applied. So what this has done is it's now looking at each of these. So I've just changed the sort a little bit. What I've done is, instead of, because these are all different, I've made these unique. So these are all A's, and these are all B's, and these are all U's. So we're going to use this instead. So now they're all consistent. Now our sort is applied number 1 on column B here, and this is going to be sorted A to Z. But then on the second level, we want to sort by the total value of stock, largest to smallest. So now you can see all the A's are together first as our priority, but the second priority is categorizing so that this is in a highest to lowest order. So let me just quickly visualize this for you so it's a little bit easier to read. I'm going to apply a data bar. So as you can see, so first priority is A, and then it's going highest to lowest, and then the next priority is B, and it's going highest to lowest, and then U is going highest to lowest. So that's how you apply different levels of priority in the filter. So we could always reverse these. We could prioritize the total value of stock first, and then we're going to go down this as the priority. So that's how we can add multiple different levels of filters or sorts in filters. The thing we want to discuss is how do you actually clear this filter? Because let's say we have only selected, we want to go back to how we were before. So we simply press this button up here, the clear button. Let's talk about filters. So we've discussed sorts. Now filters is a little bit different, because filters, as I said before, it makes everything disappear that you haven't selected. So we've discussed this. Now let's discuss what we want to apply as a filter. So perhaps we only want to show items with the word A in it. So we can do that, and now we can only see these ones. Now if we want to go back to showing the whole list, we need to clear the filter. And the way we do that is by pressing this button up here, the clear filter. Alternatively, we could just clear our filter altogether and then press filter again, and now we're back to our original state. Just make sure it's applying to your header. So similar to sorts, we can also stack multiple filters. So we can apply a filter on column B first, and then we can apply a filter or a sort on top of that. So as a first step, what we should do is, I want to only show items which have an X compatible wording in here. So what I can do is I can just press down here. I can actually search for the fields that I want to show. So straight away you can see that there are 4 instances of this showing up. So I'm going to press OK, and now I've only filtered those. From there on, I can add another filter, or I can sort it. So I could sort these by largest to smallest, for example, or I could only show dates which were in June and August 2015. So there's 2 filters applied on top. Clear that out now and restart. So the other thing that I want to show you is when you're searching for a certain text, you can do a wildcard. And what a wildcard means is it basically searches for any text containing a certain thing. So we could go with a 9, and as long as we apply the asterisk before and after, what it'll do, it'll look for any text containing that 9, either including at the beginning or at the end. So if we just type 9, we'll get something similar. But if it's text, you might have something like a book. Therefore, it's only going to search book and not textbook or white book and things like that. So this is how you use the wildcard feature there. So we can select all of those and press OK. So we're now filtered by everything with a 9 in it. The thing that I'm going to show you is custom filters, which is how you do things like searching for two things like or. So what we're going to do is we're going to select this column here, and we're going to go text filters. And there's a few options here, so you can do similar to how we did in conditional formatting. You can do equals, not equals, begins with, ends with, contains, does not contain, or custom filter, which is what I want to talk about now. So in the custom filter, we can do this or function, which I think is really useful. So I can then scroll down and select contains, but there's lots of other different options depending on what you want to look for. I'm going to go with contains because I want to know anything that has a M or a K. But I want it to be M compatible, so it doesn't just pick up the M in the word compatible. And I also want it to or contains the word K. That should be okay by itself because there's no K in the other words. So if we select that and press OK, so now it's going to show everything with an M or a K in there, which is perfect. And then of course we can add our own custom filter in there as well. So the next thing that I'm going to show you is working with dates. So we discussed already that you can filter by, you can sort by oldest or newest. And you can also select in this drop down particular months or particular days or particular years even. But what I want to show you is these pretty powerful date filters over here. See how long this list is after that? So you can do all kinds of things. You can do only select date ranges that were between two dates, before dates, next week, last week, next month, last month, next quarter, last quarter, next year, last year, year to date, all dates in the period. So you can choose certain quarters or certain months. So we can choose just say February if we have any. I don't think we had any. We've got a July in there, so you can filter only July months in there. You can filter, year to date. Because these are old dates, it's not going to work for me. So there's a lot of different possibilities in here. Quite a powerful tool. You can do a custom filter as we did before, and just make it perfectly suited to what you need. Yeah, lots of really powerful filters. You can do a certain date equals 28th of the 7th, 2015. It's going to pull out that one date. Or you can do an OR function as we discussed before. So lots of powerful date filters available for you to sort with. So the next thing is what we can do is actually copy a filter to another table. So I just want to show you what happens. So the first thing to note is I've just selected a random selection of items from the item name. Now, as I discussed before, filters basically hides anything that you haven't selected on a filter. And you can tell that because it's still going down to row 25, but you're getting skips like from 8 to 12. That means the items in between weren't filtered. That means they're going to be hidden. But what actually happens if you copy that range is it's not going to copy the hidden cells in between. So let me just paste values. So as you can see, it's only going to copy and paste the values that are filtered, even though there are a number of cells that are hidden behind it. So if we just unclear it, you can see all of these values weren't copied. Next thing that I want to show you is filtering by color. Now, we did quickly discuss this in the conditional formatting video. I'm just going to rehash this and go into a little bit more detail as well. So we discussed that you could apply certain conditional formatting. For example, we could highlight, let's see, we could highlight duplicate values. So everything's a duplicate. We could highlight less than, say, 5 or less than 8. Yep, so let's do that one. And then over here we could filter by if a date is, so a date occurring, not those. We could do duplicate values. So there's some duplicate values down there. We could do do the top 10%. So there's highlighting those. So we could apply quite a few different filters, right? Not only can we just highlight them so that they visually stand out, but we can also just filter the data set so we can only just show those. So which one do we want to choose first? Let's choose the purchase price. So we can either sort by color, so let's do that first. So I can sort by color, and it means all the red ones are going to be at the top, and all the non-highlighted ones are going to be at the bottom. Alternatively, what we could do is we could filter them. So we could filter by red, and that will only show the items in this database that have been conditional formatted. Or we could even filter by no fill, so it only shows the one that weren't conditionally formatted. Okay, now once we've got this, we can apply multiple filters as well. So let's say we only want to show the ones that have a filter in both the purchase price but also the last updated column. So we can apply a filter on this one as well, and we can go filter by color and only select that one. So here's the example that we're looking for, and it very quickly gave us the answer that we were looking for. So let's quickly reset that. Okay, so the next thing that I want to show you is how to actually sum up the value in a filtered table. So ordinarily we can just do a total row like so. I recommend actually doing it a row apart. I might show you why in a second. Let's say that we put it in a connecting row, and then we applied filters to our table like so. What happens when you actually filter it now, and we go largest to smallest, it actually includes our total because it was connected to the data set itself. So that's why I recommend whenever you're dealing with a data set, just separate the total by one line, and then Excel will know to stop there, and you can have your total over here. It's not going to be included in the filter. So I'm just going to add some formatting there. It's a little bit easier to see. And then I'm going to reapply filters, and you can see when I do that, and I filter by, say, largest to smallest, it's not going to pick up the total anymore. Okay? So that's how you do it. Now the next thing to note with totaling a filtered data set is that if we used our standard formula, which is equals sum, we're going to run into some issues. The reason is if we apply a filter, let's just double check that that sum makes sense. So 248, yep, that checks out. If we apply a filter, let's see what happens to our total. So we're going to filter these ones by that. Notice how our total doesn't equal what's up here. It hasn't changed. Because if I add up all of these, I get 76, but our total is showing 248. Basically what's happening is it's summing all the hidden cells in there as well. So what we need is a different formula. The formula that we're going to use is called subtotal, and that basically works the same as a sum formula, except it takes into account what values that you've filtered. So this is the formula here, so we go subtotal, and then the first thing that Excel asks us to do is give us the function number. So basically you can use this subtotal for all kinds of things, for an average, for a count, for a max, a min, a product, or a sum, or an average, a count A, all kinds of different options. The most common one that we're going to use today is sum. So we're going to put 9 in there because that corresponds with sum. And then press comma. And then Excel is going to say, okay, so what's our reference set of data? All right, so I'm going to select the entire thing. So D2 to D25. I'm going to change that to 24. And then I'm going to end bracket. Okay, so now I'm going to drag this across. And you'll see that this now, 76, reflects the sum of what it says over there, 76. So just be careful with that, an easy one to get caught out by. Just remember that the sum formula sums up the hidden cells, whereas the subtotal only sums the filtered cells. Okay, and the last thing that we're going to cover off is just converting your data set to a table. So it's not a necessary step, but it can add some extra features. So basically the shortcut to convert something to a table, Control T, so just select anywhere, press Control T. It'll then select the outside of your table by default. It'll select the contiguous range. and it'll suggest you to say, okay, this is the data area. It'll ask you to confirm that, and I'll ask you to confirm if it has headers, i.e. this area up here or not. And the answer is yes, we do have headers, so let's click OK. So now the first thing it's going to do is going to reformat it. It'll give you some options to quickly, do some different formatting. So if you don't like the default format, you can choose something else. I don't personally really care that much about any of these formats, but let's just go with this one quickly. Okay, so some of the key functions that it's going to add in gives you some ability to actually rename the table. So if you call it, say, inventory, you can quickly refer to that anytime by just typing in inventory. You can also quickly, it gives you some options to convert it into a pivot table quickly, to insert a slicer, which is basically a field selector. So we could go, let's say, column A. So we can quickly go A, B, or U. So just a little bit of functionality, but not quite a pivot table, but still a cool little tool. We can also remove duplicates fairly quickly if we want to do that. And it's also a way we can also add in a total row. So we don't have to go through the struggle of adding in the subtotal, etc., and messing around with that. We can just go straight to total, the table design, and add in a total row. At the bottom of each of these, just select what formula we want. So I want sum here. Maybe we want an average over here. Maybe we want an average over here. And maybe we want a count here. Or maybe it's a standard deviation or a max. Or you can do it however you want, but it offers some pretty good functionality there. And it'll only sum what you've got filtered. So if you only filter these three, it's only going to filter those and pick up the average for those. So cool little feature there. You can change the format here as well. You can bold those. You can add some color formatting there. You can remove the filter button fairly easily without having to actually remove the filters. Yeah, pretty cool little feature, but again, not 100% necessary, but it does increase your functionality. So that's everything that you need to know about lists and filtering and sorting data in Excel. This was the last non-chart topic in the intermediate course, and now we'll be just focusing on Excel charts for the next 3 chapters. Thank you.